Welcome to the February 2025 Microsoft Product Licensing Terms Update from the version 1 Software Asset Management team. How's everybody doing today?
Good, thank you.
Good, thanks, Karen.
Great. So I'll kick things off this month. There's a few short updates, nothing too major to report in the product terms changes this month. I'll kick things off. So first of all, Microsoft Defender for Business. This month's terms have included there's an inclusion or a clause stating how customers can apply Defender for Business on up to 5 concurrent devices, this is an unusual. I always assumed that it would have been 5 concurrent devices since Defender became available, but there's a clause in there now that's clearly specifies that it's up to 5 concurrent devices, which is not too dissimilar to what we see with other Microsoft SaaS services and all things Microsoft 365 related. Also, we saw the removal of Microsoft 365 Information Protection and DLP as a student benefit add-on from the availability and prerequisite tables. So academic institutions or those that would qualify for student-based licensing models should take note of that one. And then the third one that I looked at this month, which is obviously every month we see data and privacy updates. And I think, William, you're going to look at the other data and privacy update. But with regards to EA data boundary rules, i.e. the way Microsoft hosts computers or computing environments and data centers exclusively within the European Union or the EFTA or European Free Trade Association areas. There's some additional services that are now added into the EU data boundary services table. Azure Managed Applications, Azure Resource Manager, and Cloud PC. So there were the 3 I looked at this month. So as I said at the start, nothing too groundbreaking on that front. Niamh, I'll hand over to you next.
Good stuff. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so the 2 that I looked at were an update to Microsoft Azure, where they've added language to Azure Communication Services terms to require developers to collect explicit consent for recording if the tenant admin has enabled explicit recording. So I had a look to just what kind of examples would that kind of entail. So you could use a pop-up notification, a pre-meeting consent form, an in-call notification, or an audio notification. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the second one that I looked at was audio services, which have been renamed to PSTN audio services. And that has updated SMS functionality to include privacy language and messaging policy. And what does that mean? It just means that for privacy language, that terms and conditions for using SMS services now include specific language about how user data is handled. So therefore ensuring compliance with privacy regulations. And then the messaging policy, that's the rules and kind of guidelines for using SMS services, such as acceptable use, consent requirements, and compliance with legal standards. So in essence, these updates are to kind of enhance transparency and ensure users' privacy is protected while using SMS functionalities within PSTN audio services. So that was it from me, Carl.
Great stuff. William, over to you.
Thank you.
More privacy.
And more privacy, yes. So I suppose on the first one, Microsoft 365. So Microsoft 365 Copilot has now been rebranded to Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. Copilot Chat terms are now included under the Microsoft 365 terms. And there's 2 versions of Copilot Chat. So the first option is free for all users within an organization. And that's to obtain web-based answers. So that's a bit like the old Bing enterprise chat offering. So using Copilot Chat to search the web for answers. And the second one is a consumption model, and it's chargeable. So it's based on a bulk packages of sort of 25,000 messages per month as a flat fee, or on a per message on a pay-as-you-go basis. And that's really what's built out of Copilot Studio. So that's another change to Copilot. And on that basis, they privacy and security terms. So the core online services table has been updated from Microsoft Copilot to Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. but there's no other change in terms, just a product name change.
So, as I said at the start, it is a light month in terms of product changes. There was a couple of things probably worthwhile pointing out in today's video recording. First of all, around Microsoft key product lifecycle dates for 2025. I pushed out a blog on this particular topic around Microsoft fixed support lifecycle dates to watch out for, particularly towards the end of this year on the 14th of October. There's going to be some changes to Microsoft Office family of products in relation to technologies like Exchange. So 14th, if I get this right, 14th of October 2025, Office 2016 and Office 2019 will reach end of extended support. So organizations that are impacted by that change will need to plan accordingly and potentially need to implement new licensing, either metrics or purchase new licenses to accommodate that change. Obviously, Microsoft in recent years have been a little bit more restrictive in terms of the versions of Microsoft Office that will support with Office 365, and that gap has been narrowing as time has gone by with regards to what you can actually use and what will be supported with Office 365. So again, if you're impacted by that, at this stage, I think a lot of customers will be licensing the Office suite primarily through the Office 365 suite itself. But having said that, if you're impacted by that, now is the time to start looking at what that change is going to be, what's the impact of that change from a licensing perspective. We do realize, that there are certain customers out there that have sat on their hands when it came to investing in subscription-based licenses for Office and have continued to purchase on a perpetual basis. So if you're in that camp, obviously you need to be mindful of that and start getting that assessment done early to realize the potential cost-saving opportunities that might be on the horizon. Also, to take into account as a part of this one, there's a material change with regards to Exchange Server. So also on the 14th of October, Exchange Server 2016 and 19 will also reach extended support like the Office suite itself. So I think this will serve many organizations who haven't made the jump to Exchange Online as the kind of perfect opportunity to perhaps modernize by moving to the online equivalent. However, there are certain scenarios in certain organizations, be it for regulatory reasons or for other reasons, that they will continue to want to maintain Exchange on premise. So that will obviously introduce a new licensing requirement when upgrading to the latest version of Exchange. So we're going to see a transition to the Exchange Server Subscription Edition, or SE, coming into play, which is, I guess, another death nail, I guess you could say, in the perpetual licensing model for all things Microsoft. And I suppose this is a trend. We've seen it with SharePoint Server. We're probably going to see it with other products as time goes by, that they'll no longer become available as and when new versions come out on a perpetual license basis. So moving to a subscription model. So again, lot to assess and take into account there if you're going to be impacted by those product lifecycle changes. There are a couple of other changes with regards to Visual Studio, Dynamics. I cover those off in my blog. Not really that impactful versus the Exchange piece, I would say. Also some Skype for Business changes there, but I think at this stage, the rise of Teams possibly means that the majority of customers have started to go down that route either way. So quite a lot of detail on that one, but do check out the blog. I'll include a link to that product lifecycle blog in the supporting blog for this month's Microsoft product terms. So over to you, William. Neve, anything else you guys want to catch up on?
Yeah, just very briefly. So there's a pricing promotion which Microsoft have announced for 1st of Feb until 1st of Feb next year. So that's 50% discount on Microsoft E5 compliance for customers with Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses. So if customers purchase Microsoft 365 Copilot but haven't yet purchased the E5 compliance add-on, then there is a 50% discount available on those subscriptions until next year.
Would they be quite complementary? Would you kind of need one for the other?
I think because of the essentially. So because of the data governance and all the good stuff around security for Copilot, E5 compliance does make sense in that respect. So it is a step up for some people. So if they've got the Copilot, then they might be missing out on some of that additional tips and tricks and features and functions that E5 compliance would give them.
Okay. That's interesting. And then I guess finally it's worth noting that there are some new licensing briefs up on the Microsoft.com website since the beginning of 2025. So a couple kind of caught my eye just to kind of, because I'd have more kind of experience of dealing with them. But William, you'd probably be quite interested in the Dynamics 365 Contact Center licensing guidance, as well as the Microsoft Sustainability Manager licensing guidance. And the two, I haven't heard this one for a while, but the client access licenses, the SweetBridges, the licensing guidance there. So again, I suppose supporting any customers that are still transitioning from any kind of on-prem or professional desktop components in an enterprise agreement. And then the Microsoft 365 apps, so the apps for enterprise, the licensing guidance, or apps for business, I think, as well. And I think that customers might find some, useful kind of up-to-date, particularly FAQ on, using Office in kind of shared activation scenarios, so remote use, basically. And then there was Microsoft Defender as well, licensing guidance. So it's well worth kind of having a look at those and to see what new, if any, kind of guidance there is, and particularly around kind of scenarios that mightn't have been kind of clear before.
So a few nuggets of information there at the end to take into account. So I think that about wraps it up for this month's product terms updates. Hopefully next month there'll be lots of juicy updates for us to get our teeth into, but this month is relatively straightforward. So as always, if you have any Microsoft licensing related queries or any software vendor related licensing queries that you need some assistance on, feel free to reach out to us here at the Version 1 Software Asset Management Practice. Until next month's recording, thanks Niamh, thanks William.
Thank you.